was made to acknowledge this, as we read in the legends of Blessed Jordan, at one time general of the Dominican order. For when Jordan asked Satan in the person of one who was possessed, what was the principal torment of hell, he answered, being excluded from the presence of God. Is God then so beautiful to look upon? Jordan inquired. And on the devil replying that he was indeed most beautiful, he asked further, how great is his beauty? Fool that thou art, to put such a question to me. Dost thou not know that his beauty is beyond compare? Jordan continued, give me to some extent at least an idea of the divine beauty. Then Satan said, imagine a crystal sphere 1,000 times more brilliant than the sun, in which the loveliness of all the colors of the rainbow, the fragrance of every flower, the sweetness of every delicious flavor, the costliness of every precious stone, the kindliness of men, and the attractiveness of all the angels combined. Fair and precious as this crystal would be, in comparison with the divine beauty, it would be unsightly and impure. And pray, the good monk inquired, what wouldest thou give to be admitted to the vision of God? And the devil replied, if there were a pillar reaching from the earth to heaven, beset with sharp points and nails and hooks, I would gladly consent to be dragged up and down that pillar from now until the day of judgment, if I could only be permitted to gaze on the divine countenance for a few brief moments. What dost thou imagine that eternity really is, or what its duration will be? Eternity is something that has no beginning and no end. It is time which is always present and never passes away. Thus the torments of the damned will never end, never pass away. When 1,000 years have gone by, another 1,000 will commence, and so on forevermore. None of the damned can reckon how long they have been in hell, since there is no succession of day and night, no division of time, but continual and eternal night from the first moment of their entrance into hell forevermore. The damned would be joyful, they would give God thanks, if they could hope after millions and millions of years of torment to be at last released from their misery. But there is no hope at all of their final release from the pains of hell. It may perhaps be surmised that the damned grow accustomed to their torments, and at length become insensitive and almost indifferent to them. This is far from being the case. The damned feel their torture to its full extent, and always in the same degree. Each one in hell feels his sufferings now as acutely as he did in the first hour of his damnation, and he will continue to feel them no less keenly after thousands and thousands of years have elapsed. The soul in hell, spurred on by frightful pains, looks everywhere for some alleviation, some word of comfort, but not even a sympathizing look greets her, for she is surrounded by cruel devils and bitter enemies. Not meeting with any compassion where she is, she raises her eyes to heaven and beholds it so beautiful, so enchanting, so delightful, so full of true happiness. She remembers that she was created and destined to enjoy its bliss, and now, in the midst of her most excruciating pains, she longs for its pleasures with a still more indescribable yearning, and makes extraordinary efforts to go there, but she cannot leave her abode of torment. No one in heaven seems to take any notice of her. She sees the throne that God in His goodness had prepared for her, now occupied by someone else. There is no longer any room for her in heaven. She beholds there some of her relatives, of her companions and acquaintances, but they do not heed her. She beholds all the elect in heaven full of joy and gladness. In vain the damned soul calls on the saints, on the Blessed Virgin, and our divine Savior Himself. She feels drawn to God by an irresistible impulse, and understands that God alone can quench her thirst for enjoyment and make her happy. She longs to see and possess Him. She repeatedly endeavors to spring towards Him. She feels herself repulsed by Him with invincible force. She beholds herself the object of divine wrath, of the divine anathema. She is aware that her case is hopeless, and that she shall never be admitted into the mansions of the blessed. or leave the abode of endless misery. What a torment will it be for the damned to see the cause of their damnation. Even at present, what does our past life appear to us but a dream, a moment? And what will the 60 or 70 years that they have lived on earth appear to those who are in hell, when they find themselves in the abyss of eternity, in which after 100 or 1,000 million years, their eternity will still only be beginning? But why do I say 70 years of life? 70 years perhaps all passed in pleasure? And does the sinner perchance, who lives without God, always enjoy himself in his sins? How long do the pleasures of sin last? They last a few moments. And all the rest of the time of that man who lives at variance with God is a time of pain and bitterness. Now, what will these moments of pleasure appear to that poor lost soul? And especially, how will that one last sin appear which has been the cause of his damnation? Then he will exclaim, "For a